So my personal favorite Matrix client is Element. And as you can see, it looks very similar to Discord in many ways. And because it looks so similar to Discord, you might think that it behaves in the exact same way as Discord as well, but it has these little quirks about it that make it kind of weird when you first start using it, but not all of them are necessarily bad. It does have some rough spots around the edges though, so I did want to point those out in this video. So let's just start with what seems kind of similar. So if you want to go into any other chat, all you need to do is just go and click on that chat. So my announcements here, or I want to click on a chat with a person, I just click on their name, or anywhere along this highlighted part, it will jump me directly into that. If you want to go and say, you know, stop getting notifications about something, we can go and check our notification options here. Set it to, you know, mentions and keywords, or all messages, or none. Basically, it's very similar to Discord in that respect. One thing that I didn't know that Discord had until very recently, that this also has as well, is actually commands. So this actually has way more commands though, so we can just do basically all of our server management from here, as well as doing a bunch of other stuff as well. So we can do something like a DuckDuckGo query, we can change our nickname, we can change the room avatar. Obviously, in the case of things like the room avatar, we do need to have admin permissions for that. We can, you know, invite people to the room, kick people, ban people, basically any sort of thing that you want to do for managing your room can be done from this command. And the reason why I say basically anything is because you also have access to the dev tools as well. So if we do dev, basically once you have access to the dev tools, you can do anything you have permission to actually do. Because this gives you direct access to the Matrix API. Obviously, by doing it in a command form like this, it is going to be a bit more fiddly than working with a button directly, but if you do want to do something, having access to this directly like this is really, really useful to have. And it's not just room management that can be done from this as well. So the dev tools will also affect your user account as well, but there are shortcuts for doing things like, say, joining a new room with /join or leaving a room with /part. But because this is a graphical client, there are buttons to do those things as well. So let's say we want to join a new room. We can go and click this plus button right here to add a room. And we can either create a new room or explore public rooms. So let's just go explore public rooms and search for something. Actually, let's just join the Rustlang, or we could search for something like, say, Linux, and there'll be some sort of Linux chats in here. What'll be here? Technology, you can do Linux lovers, Arch Linux. Let's just join this one. Or in some cases, you can actually go and preview a room, which will let you see the messages in there without actually going and joining it. So let's just join this one here and give it a second. It will join us to the room. Depending on whether the room is on your home server or on a different home server and the performance of that home server, it may take a different amount of time to actually join. But there we go. As we can see, we've now joined. Now, while we're in a room, we can do things like check the files that are in the room, give that a second to load. It'll show us all the files that have been sent. We can, you know, share the room to someone else, and this will give us a direct link to it, or we can go and share it on any of these things right here, or share the QR code. Or let's say we just wanted to go and leave the room. What we do is go to the room settings, and it's not in a very obvious place. What you need to do, it's not under advanced or notification or anything like that. It's under general. You scroll all the way down to the bottom, and then you will see leave room. Personally, I would like to have like a leave room button here directly, or maybe a leave room button over here, just so it's in a much more obvious place to find. But if we go and leave the room now, it will confirm whether we want to do that, and click on that. Give it a second, and now we've left the room. Now, Element sort of flips the idea of communities and rooms, or in the case of Discord, servers and channels backwards. So, in the case of Element, if you don't have a community selected, so anything in this list right here, what it's going to do is show you every single room that you're a part of. So if you're in, say, you know, 10 or 20 rooms in 5 different communities, it's going to show you this big list of them without really any indication of where they're actually from. Whereas Discord, you can't really not be inside of a server, so it's only going to show you the rooms involved with that specific server. I feel like the Discord way of handling it makes it a bit easier to actually work out what you're actually seeing on your screen right now. But if you're not using any communities and you're just in various independent rooms, it's not really that big of a deal. But communities are still a very new feature to Matrix in general, so hopefully over the next year or so, there'll be some change that makes them much easier to manage. One thing they could do is, under the rooms here, any rooms that are a part of a specific community, have them under like a tab here that says, hey, these are a part of Brodie's community and these are a part of another community, and then you could basically collapse them into a shortened down list. So if you don't want to see those ones and you don't have any of the communities selected, basically you only need to see what you want to see. Now, when it comes to chatting, there's really nothing out of the ordinary with Elements. So, like with Discord, we can go and type a message down here. If we press Shift-Enter, that will then make a multi-line message. If we go and just press Enter, that will then send the message. And if you go and press on the right-hand side here, we have an Upload File button. But like with Discord, if you just drag a file in, it will then prompt you to upload it to Matrix. Much easier to do it like that. I'd never actually click this Upload File button, even over in Discord. Now, one thing that is slightly different about Discord, so we do have an emoji picker here, but currently there's no way to have, community-wide emotes or even room-wide emotes. Basically, you're stuck with the emojis that are here, or you can have stickers that are bound to your individual user. But I would like a way to have it so everyone on the community or everyone on the room can be using the same emotes, but having individual stickers, honestly, might actually be better, because then you can have full control over what you actually want to send. Now, getting stickers to actually work is a massive, massive pain, because you have to go and mess around with stuff in the dev tools, but I will be doing a follow-up video specifically on stickers. As for other little things, you can go and react to messages, so if you click this button here, it will let you react with an emoji. Because we can't do things like room emotes, they are just going to be the boring generic emoji, but it's still perfectly fine. If you click this button right here, that will let you do a reply. Basically, it works like any sort of reply would in any other chat app. Now, one thing I do want to talk about is this window off the right-hand side here, because early on, this is where a lot of my confusion actually came from. So I showed you earlier that if you click Share Room, that would give you a link to actually share the room. Now, you might think that if you go and click on the list of people and you go to invite to this room, that it might also have a link to actually share the room. But it doesn't. Now, you might think also that clicking the Share This Room button will take you over to that previous page we saw. It doesn't do that. What it does is opens up the link to the room inside of your web browser. Now, obviously, you could always just go and copy and paste this, but I don't know why it does it like this, instead of showing you the window they've already made for sharing a room. Now, if you ever see this window right here, the one with the list of users, and you try to close out of it, and you click this button right here again, it will take you back into it. The only way to actually leave this window is to actually click the back arrow, and that will actually take you back. Personally, I would like to see it that if I close this, it would actually take me directly back to this one, and then maybe have like an extra button here that is just for showing the room list. But besides this little panel right here, you can also go and check your notifications with the bell icon up here, and that will go and replace whatever you see inside of this panel. And then if you go and click the search button, that will then show you up the top, and you can search just this room, or you can search every room. Let's just go and search all rooms and search for something like Arch, and give it a second. As we can see, there are all of the times that Arch has been mentioned across all of the rooms that I'm in. Now, I do have a slight problem with the element search. It's still very, very rudimentary. So on Discord, I could say, search for messages from so-and-so user who has posted a link and has posted an image in this room right here. In this case, I can't really do that. It's basically just say, search for content of message, and that's all you get. Which for most situations is going to be fine, but I've lost count of how many times I've needed to go back and actually find a link someone has sent, or find an image someone has sent. I would like to see this expanded to be much, much more powerful. Now, I did mention communities earlier, so let's say that you wanted to go and join a new community. How would you go and do that? Well, you might think that if you go and click this plus right here, that would then give you the option to actually do so. What it does is it gives you the option to create a new community, and it lists the ones you're actually in. Now, you can't actually join a community directly from Element, and I don't believe there's a single Matrix client where you actually can do so, because what you have to do is go to the link to the community, and then it will prompt you to actually join inside of Element. Hopefully this does change at some point, because it does make it really, really difficult to actually get people to join, especially if they're not using the desktop version of Element, because the Android version doesn't actually support communities at all. So communities right now are still very much a work in progress, but at least we can go and make one directly from Element, and we don't need to mess around with the dev tools. So let's say you've managed to join a community or made one yourself. So how do we actually get to the community page? You might think that if you go and say click on the icon up here, it would then go and do so. But as we saw earlier, all this does is basically just filters out rooms that aren't actually inside the community that you're in right now. The way you actually get to the page is by right-clicking on the icon up here and then going and clicking on View Community, and that will actually take you to the page. I would like to have it so if you just click on it, it would take you directly to the page instead and kind of change the way that rooms actually get shown over here, or at least give us an option to go and do that instead. And because Element is the default Matrix client developed by the Matrix team, if you're a part of the main Matrix instance, there's a few places in the app they'll bug you about getting your own home server, and this is going to be done through EMS hosting. So EMS hosting is basically the hosting provided by Element, which basically will manage a home server for you, but it's needlessly expensive. And if you know how to manage a VPS, you really don't need to use this because you can get a cheaper VPS and get exactly the same or better performance. So obviously it bugs you right here inside of a community, but if you go and click on your name, it will also bug you about upgrading your own domain as well. You never actually have to use this, it's just always going to be there, just annoying you. Now, while we're on communities, there's one thing I want to talk about, and that is actually managing a community. So adding a room to a community is pretty straightforward. All we need to do is go into the community settings, and then if we click on the plus up here, that will then prompt us to actually go and add something into it. So we can either add something that we've made or any other public room into this community. Now you might think that removing would be just as easy, but as we can see, there's not actually any buttons here to go and remove stuff. If we right click, that's not doing anything. So what do we actually do? Well, what we need to do is go and click on the rooms list here, and then click on the room we want to remove. So let's say, Brodie's cooking. And from here, then you can actually remove it from the community. I don't know why it's here and not on the edit page. That seems like a really weird thing to do, but that's basically what you need to do. Now, if you're a part of a community and you want to share the link to someone, what you can do is go to the button right here. This will be the Share This Community button, and this will actually give you a link directly to it. Like with the sharing a room, we have the QR code, and we can share it directly to platforms as well. But you can also invite a user directly by going to the member list and then clicking invite to this community. In this case, we have a member list directly, but in the case of a room, we don't have one directly. So this is a bit of a weird inconsistency that I've noticed in Element, but learn to accept it until they go and change it. So we can go click invite to this community, and then we can invite a user directly. So as you can probably tell, Element is still a little bit rough around the edges, especially when we're looking at places where some of those inconsistencies start to show. That's not to say this is necessarily a bad application, it just needs a lot more work to become a really good chat client and a really polished one like something like Discord is. Now, Discord is obviously very limiting, but you can see how much polish has actually been put into it, and I would like to see Element actually have that level of polish at some point. I wouldn't really recommend using any other Matrix client unless you want something terminal-based. Then there are some interesting ones you may want to look at. So I think that's going to be pretty much everything for me, but before I go, I would like to thank my supporters. So a special thank you to Chris, Joachim, Donald, Andre, Nathan, David, Montezar, Will, Chico Bento, Joseph, Mitchell, Peter Lee, Tony Tushar, and all of my $2 supporters. If you'd like to go support, I've worked them links down below to my Patreon, subscribe, start, leave a pay, all of that sort of stuff. I've got my podcast, Tech Over Tea, available basically anywhere, and then this channel is available on Odyssey, Library, and BitChute if you want to watch on a platform that isn't YouTube. So I think that's going to be pretty much everything for me, and I'm out.